I'm 34, male, an accountant by trade, the kind of guy who notices when numbers don't add up, whether at a balance sheet or a dinner tab. I'm methodical, patient, and I pick my battles carefully. But every man has a line. My wife and I have been married for 5 years. Solid marriage. We bought our house 2 years ago, kept our finances mostly joint with separate personal spending accounts, and genuinely liked each other, which sounds like a low bar, but isn't. The problem wasn't my wife. The problem was the person my wife couldn't say no to, her younger sister. My sister-in-law moved in with us 11 months ago. Just 3 months, my wife said, until she gets back on her feet. Her sister had just gone through a bad breakup with her live-in boyfriend, lost the apartment they'd shared, and needed a soft landing. My wife has a big heart. I understood. I agreed. 3 months. That was the deal. 3 months became 5. 5 became 8. 8 became 11, and counting. In those 11 months, my sister-in-law paid us exactly $0 in rent. She ate our food, used our streaming subscriptions, ran the hot water like it was complimentary, and contributed exactly nothing to the household. No cleaning, no cooking, no grocery runs. When I brought it up gently around month 4, she cried. Big, theatrical tears. My wife held her and gave me the look that said, not now. So I dropped it. The thing about my sister-in-law is that she isn't broke. She works a marketing job, mid-5 figures at minimum. She just operates under this fundamental belief that the world owes her comfort. She actually says, without irony, I deserve nice things. That's a direct quote. I started noticing the pattern early. A $400 skincare set delivered to our house. New shoes appearing in the entryway twice a month. $80 brunches on weekends. But the moment anything required her to contribute, tight month. Every time, the cognitive dissonance was staggering. My wife has a blind spot the size of a continent when it comes to her sister. They grew up rough, single mother, not much money, and my wife basically co-parented her through high school. That history creates loyalty I genuinely respect. But it also means my wife absorbs her sister's problems as personal responsibility, even now, in our house with our money. The dinner invitation came from my sister-in-law herself. She suggested we all go out, her, my wife, and me, to a newer upscale restaurant downtown. She framed it as wanting to treat us for being so supportive. I should have known. In 11 months, she had never once paid for anything. But my wife was excited, said her sister was finally turning a corner. I let myself believe it. We got to the restaurant on a Friday evening. The kind of place where the menu doesn't list prices on the cocktail section. A red flag I noted immediately and filed away. My sister-in-law opened the menu, and I watched her eyes light up the way they do when someone knows they aren't paying. She ordered a specific wine by name, $22 a glass, then a second. Then, when the food orders came, she looked up with zero hesitation. I'm getting the lobster. $78. My wife ordered pasta. I ordered steak. I watched my sister-in-law hand the menu back to the server with this satisfied little smile, like she'd already won something. When the appetizers came, she waved the server back. We'll take the charcuterie board. No question directed at us. No checking prices. Just ordering. Performing the role of a generous woman, showing her family a good time when what she was actually doing was running up a tab she had no intention of touching. I waited, let the dinner play out, made conversation. But when the server returned during dessert and asked about the check, I spoke before anyone else could. Separate checks, please, I said. 3 ways. The table went silent. My sister-in-law's expression shifted in real time. The warmth drained from her face, and something harder replaced it. She looked at me like I'd flipped the table. "Separate checks?" She said it slowly, making sure she'd heard right. "Three ways," I said again. "Calm. Steady." I thought she stopped, recalibrated. Then she laughed, short and uncomfortable. I suggested this dinner to thank you guys. It's a little awkward to split it." "It was a great idea," I said. "We appreciated the suggestion." She looked immediately to my wife. That's always her move. Redirect to my wife, pull on that invisible cord between them, wait for rescue. My wife was staring at the tablecloth. "I didn't bring enough cash," my sister-in-law said. "I wasn't expecting this." "They take cards," I said. The server came back with 3 separate checks. My sister-in-law picked hers up, and her face did something complicated. Lobster, 2 glasses of wine, half the charcuterie board, just under $130 with tax. I watched her open her wallet with the energy of someone defusing a bomb. She paid, didn't thank the server. Left a tip I didn't see, but suspect was minimal. The drive home was quiet for 6 of the 7 minutes it took. Then, just before I pulled into the driveway, my sister-in-law said, and I will not forget this, "I just think that was really unnecessary." I parked the car, got out, went inside. Later that night, my wife came into the bedroom and closed the door behind her. "She's really upset," she said. I know. She felt embarrassed. She ordered $78 lobster and 2 glasses of wine at a dinner she invited us to. My wife was quiet for a moment. She's going through a lot. She's been going through a lot for 11 months. In our house, for free. My wife sat on the edge of the bed, working through it. Loyalty pulling one way, logic pulling another. Then she said something that told me exactly how this was going to go. "Can you just try to be more understanding?" I put my book down. I am understanding. I've been understanding for 11 months. Understanding has a cost, and I've been the one paying it. Tonight, I just decided not to. She didn't respond. She went to sleep on her side of the bed, and I lay there in the dark, running numbers, not balance sheets, but something less concrete. Months of groceries, utilities, silence. And for what? The next few days were cold. My sister-in-law avoided me, which was fine. My wife was polite but distant. The dinner incident should have been the end of it. A small, clean boundary, met with discomfort but ultimately handled. Except it wasn't the end. It was the beginning. 3 days after the restaurant, I was reconciling our joint account, something I do on the first of every month, habit from years of accounting. 2 transfers I hadn't made. Not huge, $340 and $275, but they were Venmo transfers labeled only with an emoji I didn't recognize. I checked the linked account. Both transfers went to my sister-in-law. I sat with that for a long moment. My wife had Venmo'd her sister $615 from our joint account, without telling me, without asking. The first transfer, 6 weeks ago. The second, 12 days ago, 3 days before the restaurant dinner. 3 days before a dinner where her sister claimed she didn't have enough cash. I didn't say anything yet. I'm an accountant. I don't react to a single data point. I pull the full report first. I went back further. 3 more months. For additional transfers. $80, $120, $200, $95. All Venmo. All unlabeled. Total, across 5 months, $1,110. I closed the laptop, made coffee, and started thinking about what kind of man I actually was. Patient, methodical, someone who picks his battles carefully. I've been picking the wrong ones. I didn't confront my wife that night, or the next. I needed the full picture. Partial information is dangerous, professionally and personally. So I waited watched, and started paying attention to everything. I went back through our joint account for the full 11 months my sister-in-law had been living with us. Saturday morning, 2 cups of coffee. By the end, I had a spreadsheet. Of course I had a spreadsheet. Total transferred from our joint account to my sister-in-law, or spent on her behalf. Groceries my wife had grabbed for her, a car repair my wife had lent her money for, the Venmo transfers, $2,340. $2,340. Gone. Undiscussed. But the money wasn't even the worst part. The worst part came from conversation I wasn't supposed to hear. I came home early on a Tuesday, a client meeting rescheduled last minute, and let myself in quietly. My sister-in-law was on the phone in the kitchen, speaking in that low confessional tone people use when they think they're alone. I stopped in the hallway. "He's just so controlling about money," she was saying. "Like, she can't spend anything without him freaking out." Pause. I know. She deserves better, honestly. She works so hard, and he just watches every penny like she's a child. Another pause. I've been telling her that for months. She just won't listen. I stood in the hallway of my own house and listened to my sister-in-law tell someone, a friend I assumed, that I was controlling, that my wife deserved better, that she'd been actively campaigning against my marriage. For months, I went back outside, sat in my car for 20 minutes. Then I came inside, said hello, acted normal. That week I made calls. First to my wife's aunt, someone I'm genuinely close with. Carefully, I asked if she'd heard anything concerning about our marriage from my sister-in-law. The aunt went quiet, then admitted my sister-in-law had been telling extended family that my wife was not happy and that I controlled her finances. She'd said it at a family birthday 3 months ago. Several people had heard it. I thanked the aunt and hung up. Then I dug into my sister-in-law's actual financial situation. She'd mentioned once, offhandedly, that she'd paid off her credit cards. But through a mutual connection and an unguarded Facebook post from 6 months back, I found photos from a Cancun resort trip she'd taken in February. A real trip, a resort, while living in our house rent-free, while my wife was sending her money from our joint account. The pieces weren't just adding up, they were forming something ugly. My sister-in-law wasn't broke. She wasn't struggling. She was making deliberate, calculated choices, and she'd recruited my wife into funding them while simultaneously working to isolate my wife from me. This wasn't freeloading. This was a long con. I thought about the dinner, the lobster, the wine, the way she'd said separate checks back to me like it was an accusation. She'd expected to eat $130 worth of food on my tab, and when I declined, she'd spent the following 3 days making me look like the bad guy. And my wife had almost fully turned against me over a restaurant check, while her sister drained our account and told family our marriage was broken. Almost. I don't blow up when I'm angry. I plan. So I build a case. Every transfer documented with dates, amounts, and screenshots. A timeline of my sister-in-law's living situation and spending cross-referenced with what I'd learned. Every conversation reported to me directly by a third party, written down with dates. Then I made 2 decisions. First, I was telling my wife everything, all at once with receipts. Second, I was making absolutely certain my sister-in-law couldn't talk her way out of it. Because people who run long cons rely entirely on having more information than you. The moment you know everything they know, and more, the game ends. I set up a dinner. At home this time, just the 3 of us. Separate checks weren't going to be necessary. I told my wife 2 hours before her sister arrived. I sat her down at the kitchen table and laid everything out, the spreadsheet, the screenshots, the timeline, what her aunt had told me, the Cancun photos. All of it. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't make it about me. I just put the information in front of her and let her read it. She went through it slowly, quietly. I watched her face cycle through confusion, then recognition, then something that looked like a slow headache forming behind her eyes. I sent her the money because she said she needed it, my wife said. I know. She told me you'd say no if I asked. I know that too. My wife set the papers down. She told family our marriage was in trouble. Yes. She sat quietly for a moment. I didn't know about the vacation. Nobody did, except whoever she went with. My wife didn't get defensive, didn't try to explain it away, didn't pivot to protecting her sister out of reflex. She looked at the spreadsheet one more time, closed it, and said, "What do you want to do?" "I want you in the room when I talk to her," I said. That's all. My sister-in-law arrived at 6:30, breezy and unsuspecting. She'd texted earlier asking if she should bring wine. My wife had said no. She sat down and looked between us, and whatever she picked up in the atmosphere made her say, with a slight shift in posture, "Everything okay? We need to have a conversation," I said. I walked her through it exactly as I had with my wife. Methodically. The transfers, the timeline, the family conversations. No editorializing. Just facts, placed on the table one after another. She tried every angle. First came confusion. "I don't know what you're talking about." But the screenshots were right there in front of her. Then came reframing. I was going to pay it back. I just hadn't gotten around to it. My wife asked quietly why she'd never once mentioned any of it. Silence. Then came the real move. She turned to my wife, eyes filling, and said, "I told you things in confidence, and now he's using them against me." Try to reframe the whole conversation as a privacy violation. Me as the aggressor, her as the victim. It was a calculated move. It almost worked. My wife said quietly, "You told Aunt that our marriage was broken." "Why would you do that?" My sister-in-law opened her mouth, closed it. "He controls your finances," she finally said. "I was worried about you." "He didn't know you were taking money from our account," my wife said. "Because I didn't tell him. Because you told me not to." That landed. The room went still. I let the silence hold for a moment, then said, "You have 2 weeks to make arrangements to move out. The $2,340 we're writing off as a loss. We're not pursuing it. What we are doing is moving forward without this arrangement." "You can't just," she started. "It's my house. My name is on the mortgage. 2 weeks." She looked at my wife one last time. One final pull on the cord. My wife said, "I think it's best." My sister-in-law didn't leave immediately. She cycled through emotions for another 15 minutes. Arguments, tears, a brief return to the controlling husband narrative. But eventually she picked up her bag and walked out. 2 weeks later, to the day, she was gone. Turned out, when she was sufficiently motivated, she could find an apartment in record time. The family fallout came in waves. The aunt backed us fully. Others were more conflicted, having only heard my sister-in-law's version. But the details she gave publicly didn't hold up under basic scrutiny, and people who'd known us long enough started asking questions she couldn't answer cleanly. The Cancun photos didn't help her credibility when they surfaced in family conversation. My wife and I went back to therapy. We talked about the account, about the communication gap that had let this grow for nearly a year, about where the line sits between family loyalty and something that quietly hollows out a marriage. It took work. It's still taking work. But here's what I know. The night I said separate checks, I wasn't being petty. I was drawing the first real boundary in 11 months. I just didn't know yet how far I was going to have to follow it. You stuck around for every course of this meal. Go ahead and subscribe, because unlike my sister-in-law, you actually showed up ready to pay attention.